All right, so this is going to be a bit of a different topic than I usually speak about. I'm going to talk about nutrition. And this came up because I think a lot of people deal with this topic of nutrition. And I think there's a lot of confusion about what to do. So, my hope is that maybe I can give some insight. This is not going to be the most scientifically backed conversation. It's going to be based on my personal experience and what I experienced during my fitness journey. So, let me just start by going over some background here. In 2013, went on a fitness journey, specifically more of a bodybuilding journey. I was curious about what my body would be able to transform into if I just really dedicated time towards actually exercising and lifting weights. This is something I've been familiar with lifting weights and exercising. I played sports, but I had never fully committed to just exercising. It's not something I did. I always fell off the wagon. So I was never able to fully see what my body will be able to transform into if I fully committed to it. So I went on this journey, and this journey lasted from 2013 to roughly about 2015, maybe. So it was about a year and a half, almost 2 years of this journey. And during this period, it was a very interesting point in my life because I was a bum at this stage. I had nothing going on for me. During this period, I had no job. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. So I had nothing but time and I had no money. So, how do you make this work? And this was a blessing in disguise. And trust me, has a point here because I think current day there I don't know where people get money from. It seems like people have so much money. Back in the day, things were expensive and there wasn't a whole lot of money going around. And in my case specifically, I had no job, so I really had no money. So going on this journey as a broke person who just had a bunch of time was a blessing in disguise because I could really focus on the core parts that will truly translate into improving my physique. And I'm biased based on this experience because my bias is that you don't need to spend a whole lot of money to get the physique that you want. You don't need to spend a whole lot of money to get healthy. You can do a lot of these things for free. The most expensive thing, really, that you should be spending money on is a gym. All the supplements, all of the proteins, all of these things that people are spending money on, you don't really need it. And I should also preface this by saying I had the benefit, I had the blessing of being in my 20s. I was 21, 22. So I was a young man, right? And being a young man, I had you can say the anabolic potential. You can say that. I don't know if I would have the same results of just picking up weights and moving it up and down. I don't know if I would have the same results as well as I had back then. Going back to the story, during this period, I had no money. All I did was focus on improving myself in the gym. That was all. I just focused on increasing my strength and increasing my muscle mass. And I did that specifically through lifting weights and really focusing on ways to lift weights properly in terms of how I dosed it and the intensity. And that was the biggest takeaway. It wasn't anything crazy. It all boiled down to the intensity. But essentially, this is what the core, like 99% of my bodybuilding and health journey, I shouldn't say health because I don't know if I was the healthiest, but my bodybuilding, my body transformation journey, this was what the bulk of that journey consisted of. Nutrition, this was the first time that I fully paid attention to nutrition. This gave me a little bit of stress because I was reading about how I should approach diet, and everybody, it's like you have to have protein. There was such an emphasis on protein, And then the other part is there are other supplements. I've never really been crazy about supplements, so I didn't really read much into a lot of the supplements. I didn't even consider them. For one, because they were expensive, also, but two, just because I didn't really feel like I needed it. And if it came down to it, I'll try it if it came down to it. But protein was going to be the biggest barrier. Growing up in a African home, you don't really have a lot of protein in the meal. A lot of the food we eat is carb heavy. So that was going to be a big barrier for me. How did I overcome this? I don't I don't think I fully overcome it. I don't think I fully overcame it. If people were to see the amount of protein I ate, I did not measure it, but I did make a conscious effort to try to eat more protein. But obviously, there's a limit to how much protein you can eat because my mom and my parents weren't going to support me just eating all the meat in the pantry and in the whole food, right? They weren't going to support that. So I was limited with how much protein I could take. So I bought some protein, some whey protein. And I actually probably bought only 2 gallons, like the big ones. Probably only bought two, and those were to supplement on weeks or days where I didn't have as much protein. So I would take a little bit on top of that, and I made this stretch. I was mining my protein powder because I didn't want all these people taking like 4 scoops and whatever. I was taking 1 scoop, maybe 2 scoops. Once again, I had no job. I was broke. Okay, I was broke as a joke. I didn't have money to be spending, ridiculously on a bunch of excessive stuff. So I ate the protein that was in the house, whatever was available, and it wasn't a whole lot of protein. And like I said, I only bought about 2 gallons of protein powder. I bought two of them over the course of this 1.5 year journey. That was pretty much it. Um, as far as supplements and my overall dietary approach, I will say I did loosen up on my carb intake and also my fat intake. Growing up, we kind of shunned, my parents shunned too much fats. So I always had this like negative association with fats. As I went on this journey, I opened up to the idea of consuming more fats. And it's good because it helped me maintain calories. And then was obviously more open to consuming more carbs. Now, that was the overall structure of it. Now, to get more granular, and this will not relate to a lot of people because this was very specific to me. I had my own principle that came up with. I don't know if I'll say came up with because it makes it seem like I invented something, but that's not the case. I took an approach of matching my diet to my ethnic origin and just thinking locally. And my thought process was, well, hereditary and based on the local region that my my body is from. Obviously, my predecessors, my parents, grandparents, unlike America, where people are spread and mixed, um, my heritage is quite well defined. I'm Nigerian, and as far as we can trace back, a lot of us we grew up in the same, not the same, but we essentially grew up in West Africa. That's looking as far back, my heritage goes back to West African regions. And if you look in that region, there's going to be certain foods that are accessible there and certain types of diets. And my thought process was, well, if this is what my predecessors were thriving off of and were able to um, survive and then pass their genes over time, there's likely going to be a adaptation in our genetic makeup. ours, as in like my predecessors and people in that area, there's going to be an adaptation and a preference for those types of diets that are native to that area. So I took this approach of a native diet. I've leaned into our native foods and really used those for a lot of my calories. I felt great, just body wise, I felt great. It really sat well with me. I felt like my performance was pretty good when I was lifting. Overall, I think the results came out decent. Um, I'm always I'm always unsure about this because I look at my physique and I'm like, I think it looks fine, but who knows? Maybe my physique is trash. I'm not sure. You guys tell me. But I think my physique came out decently following this native diet. I can't recommend it for other people because once again, this was just an idea that I played with, and really it came out of being broke and having limited access to protein, that I just came up with an idea of like, okay, well, what type of diet should I follow? And I just followed this so-called native diet. So that was my fitness journey. That was my bodybuilding journey. And the reason I say this, I give this story and I give this background is that my relationship with nutrition and diet comes from this experience that, hey, I can eat this type of food and attain a specific type of physique. And I have a pretty flexible diet. It wasn't like I was 100% strict with this native diet. I also ate other things. I subscribe more to a calorie based diet versus macronutrients. I do try to incorporate a more balanced diet, incorporate in all the macronutrients and then also micronutrients. I did not, I was not tracking these like hardcore. I just roughly had an idea. Oh, this is a more carb based meal. This is a more fatty based meal. This is a more protein rich meal. So that was more grossly how I approached the diet. Nothing too specific. And I don't think diet, I don't think nutrition has to be overly specific. I really don't think it needs to be for the majority of people. If you are a high performing athlete, if you're getting paid to work out and to look a certain way, well, then yeah, you want to follow a pretty strict diet and, you know, you want to try to get as much benefit as you can. But as a regular Joe who was just trying to work out and, gain some muscles and had no money, it seems to work out fine. So I don't think you need to be overly specific. I don't think you need to be spending excessive amounts of money on a meal plan. I don't think you need to be spending excessive amounts on supplements. I really don't think supplements are necessary if you are 25 years and younger. Um, it might be beneficial at a later stage and at a later age, but definitely 25 years and younger, I think you can do with the supplements, without the supplements. As far as protein, up to you if you want to spend a bunch of money taking protein. Individuals that I've exercised with and worked out with in the past consume more protein than I did, and their physique did not grow to the extent that mine did. And I don't know. So for me, I don't see any strong evidence to suggest that protein is going to make the difference in your physique. Um, I don't see any strong evidence that a very specific particular diet is going to be what leads you to a specific type of physique or your dream physique. I think the training intensity is really what matters the most. And like I mentioned, being broke and going on my fitness journey while I was broke was a blessing in disguise because I did not have the resources to waste. So let me just go over some general principles that hopefully can help people sort out if you do want to go down that route. If you do want to spend money on nutrition and supplements, I'll give you kind of a framework, and this is more of the scientific backed portion of how you should approach specific nutrition or dietary practices. So, when we're thinking about nutrition, it's relevant for four different categories. For health and wellness concepts, we have performance enhancement, and you'll see this called ergogenic effects. So, food can have these performance enhancing effects, supplements as well. And then you also have performance building effects. After you've exercised, using diet and nutrition to now optimize the results that you get from your exercise. And then these next two categories I think are what a lot of people are very interested in. And currently with the Make America Healthy Again, Joe Rogan, all of these podcasters talking about how food has these different health effects. I think a lot of people are now interested in health modification effects of nutrition and also for body composition. Now let's start with body composition because this has been going on forever. People have always tried to modify their diets to change their body composition. And by body composition, I mean fat loss or fat percentage, also for overall weight. So, all of these are going to be ways that people manipulate nutrition to try to change their overall body composition. The other one is going to be health modification, and this is more of the trendy practice now. With health modification, we're looking at more of a we're looking at more of a prophylactic effect of nutrition. Specifically, we're looking at nutrition as a way to maintain health and prevent negative health status. We're also looking at health modification effects of nutrition in its therapeutic effects. So people will eat specific diets or modify their nutrition. Fasting, you can say, is a modification of nutrition. You're kind of making adjustments there. Fasting is one way that people have looked at nutrition as a way of a therapeutic of having therapeutic benefits. And therapeutic benefits are going to be where there is health compromise, right? You have signs and symptoms of some condition, and you're using nutrition as a therapy for that condition or to relieve its symptoms. So people might go on specific diets if they have specific conditions, such as gout. People might use diet and nutrition if they have diabetes. They might use it if they have irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease. There's a multitude of health states that people have where they will use nutrition as a way to modify or to treat that health condition. So, grossly, these are the four different ways you can approach nutrition. Out of these four, the first two are going to be the most reliably studied as far as the performance enhancing and performance building effects of nutrition. This is almost a fact at this stage. Everybody knows nutrition. It's a fact essentially in the literature and even anecdotally. If you do not eat properly, you're not going to perform well in your exercise. If you do not eat properly and you just exercise, you're going to burn yourself out because you're not replenishing what you're losing. So we know for a fact that nutrition 100% affects performance enhancement and performance building. Now, with health modification and body composition, this is so broad. It's so broad because different individuals have their own individual states. They might have altered gut biome. There's a whole lot that's going on in individual bodies where a specific nutrition regimen might not have a similar impact from one person to another. Nutrition is it's so hard. It's so hard because you have the specific nutrition guideline and regimen, but you also have to look at the individual. Not everyone responds to certain diets in the same way. Everyone responds differently. So this makes it hard to really make a confident statement about how you should approach nutrition when it comes to body composition and also for health modification. In this situation, it's more subjective. Listen to your body. If you've always been eating a specific type of diet and you've been gaining weight your whole life because of that, guess what? Try a different diet and be consistent with it and see how your body responds. If your body responds favorably, well, that's an indication that that's a good diet for you, even if someone else says, no, this is a bad diet. So test it out yourself and see how your body responds. Scientifically, there's going to be literature that supports one versus the other, saying this type of diet is good for X, Y, and Z. You can use that as a good starting point to say, okay, how can I approach this? And then from there, try to tailor it individually to yourself. The technology, health technology, is not specific to where we can know your body chemistry and say, okay, this is a specific type of diet that you should follow that's going to give you this type of result 100%. Health medicine is just not there. Science is just not there yet. So you just have to experiment and explore. That's just it. So I hope this helps. I wanted to start this conversation with my journey, with my fitness journey, and how I approached it with nutrition. And, that was long winded, but hopefully you get some insights. And, I think the big takeaway is listen to your body. You know your body best, you know what's working and what's not working. Go ahead and experiment with different types of diets and start with the simplest. I don't think the solution has to be overly complicated or expensive. Go with a very simple approach, and I think you're going to see results there. Like I said in my story, I was just eating what was available. A lot of your benefits are going to come from exercise. Focus on the exercise and then think about the nutrition later. Mike Menser said a lot of Americans, a lot of bodybuilders are suffering from overnutrition. Most people are not deficient in the nutrition category. They have so much nutrition. Their problem, they are training inadequately. They're understimulated from an exercise standpoint.